In this section, we are going to explore the treatment you should follow in case you suffer an emotional trauma that leads you to feel that your heart is fading or disappearing little by little. This trauma in your psychic heart is usually associated with a process of constant humiliation, which causes you to feel the unconscious desire to turn off your light so that people who hurt you do not continue doing so. This explains why people who suffer a process of this type perceive in their chest how their light is gradually going out, and with it, not only the light of their heart, but the light of all their psychic energy. The problem that is associated with this is that the person who experiences an illness of this type gradually loses their ability to generate confidence and motivation. If you think about it, in a case like this, you completely turn off because no matter how hard you try, you cannot find the source of external and internal motivation that previously allowed you to generate that light for which everyone, paradoxically, criticized you. When I talk about an external source, I mean the romantic relationship you lost, or that person who previously made you feel motivated to be by their side, which results in turning off your source of internal motivation, which is nothing other than what makes you feel special, unique, compared to others, which is what has been lost because of this process of humiliation to which you have been subjected for all this time. And that is precisely what at one point causes you to stop trying to stand out and shine, and therefore your heart no longer lights up. Precisely because you no longer want to attract the attention of those people who could humiliate you for the simple fact of showing yourself as someone vulnerable to others. An example that I can give you in this regard is that of the person whose partner constantly criticized them, either for the clothes they wear, for the way they behave, or for the decisions they make. This type of toxic relationship leads you to believe that the problem is you, and consequently, as a way to avoid problems, you gradually begin to turn off. Another example that I can give you is that of the person who suffers a relationship breakup and that causes her ex, who has her problems, to begin to humiliate her previous partner, either by indicating that that person was to blame for the breakdown of the relationship or by telling the secrets that existed between them. If you suffered a breakup of this type, you can now understand why your heart begins to blur, precisely to avoid that public humiliation that your partner subjects you to through their comments. Given this entire framework of reference, you can now begin to visualize the treatment used for a case of this type. The key here is always to concentrate on what generates in you that state that leads you to turn off your heart. In light of what you have seen here, it is always related to believing that what your partner thinks about you or what other people think about your decisions is the right thing to do, when it clearly isn't. What your ex thinks is always motivated by her own emotional problems. What others think of you is just that, an opinion, based in most cases on prejudices or even envy in relation to you. If you look, we have already solved a large part of the problem, because in practice, everything that causes your heart to go out has a lot to do with your undervaluation and guilt complexes, which lead you to believe and accept what others say and what others think of you. Based on that, the next step for you to reignite your heart is to become aware that you are not guilty of shining for someone who did not deserve it. Obviously, if you were in a relationship, You wanted to show that shine because in some way you felt happy. But what happens if that person, instead of appreciating the way you shine, gets upset with you for attracting other people's attention? That will logically generate distrust in relation to your own perception of the world. As you can see, many people who enter this state in which their hearts shuts down do so because essentially their partner is someone who is very insecure. But all this has nothing to do with you. That is why it is very important that, as the third phase of this treatment that we are following here, you can understand that if your ex partner wanted to turn off your light, he or she did so because in reality, it was he or she who did not want to be alone in his or her darkness. Which is a paradox because if you think about it, you entered into a relationship with someone who came to you because of your light. But at one point, he feared that light because he somehow thought that you were going to abandon him. With which, we are right at the fourth phase of this process, where the key is for you to realize that your brilliance is going to awaken the best, but also the worst of the people around you. Therefore, it is something you have to learn to live with. And finally, you must observe that the process of turning off your heart because another person subjected you to it is nothing other than a great opportunity that life is offering you so that you learn to discover how to use your light to attract good people to those that will illuminate your life. Therefore, if you pay attention, you are in a position to awaken a great power that exists within your psyche. A power that not only applies to people of light, but also to those of darkness, because it will be precisely your brilliance which will allow you to expose those people who are not going to do anything else but harm your life. Therefore, your light is your best ally, and therefore, you should not turn it off, but rather make it shine as brightly as possible.